Hey, Andre, we've got some breaking news. President Trump wants Americans to have access to, and in fact, to drive Kei cars and trucks.
That's right. Little, small, cute, and beautiful vehicles.
But there's a catch.
What's that?
Well, we'll get to that in a second. First, we should talk about what the president said. So in a press conference recently, he came out after a trip to Asia saying that there's all these cute little cars running around places like Japan, and he wants Americans to have access to be able to drive these cute little cars and trucks. And for this conversation, we're going to be talking about trucks because this is a truck channel.
Exactly. And we need to define what is a small vehicle like a Kei Truck, which really originates in Japan, right?
Yeah, so let's talk about that. Now, Kei Trucks, and I'm going to mispronounce this. I think it's Kei Dosha.
We're not Japanese.
No. First emerged by legislation after the Second World War, and they evolved from three-wheeled vehicles based on motorcycles. And they are, of course, notable because they are tiny. You want to talk about the size?
Yeah, so length, we're talking about bumper to bumper. The very front of the front bumper to the very back, it's about 134 inches, just over 10 feet. In fact, at TFL Studios, TFL Truck, we own one of these vehicles. It's at our ranch. We have a video about it. Case and I recently showed it. So the one we have is a mid-1990s Honda Active 4x4.
Now, the size of Kei vehicles was formally and legislatively enacted back in 1998. So you said the length. How about the width and the height?
The width is tiny. The width is 58 inches, so just under 5 feet. So if you and I were sitting in one, we would be sitting really elbow to elbow basically in it. And height is actually pretty tall, 79 inches. I mean, that's a kind of a tall vehicle, but also they regulated engine displacement and type.
Yeah, so it can't be any powertrain, can't have any more than 660 cc's, which is pretty tiny. I mean, it's like a mid-sized motorcycle.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very small engine size.
And it can be turbocharged. And of course, there's also a weight limit. What's the weight limit?
So they're talking about payload, basically the weight that this vehicle can carry, which is about 770 pounds, which is actually not bad. I mean, it's typical, like a modern 4Runner, Toyota 4Runner, for example, has a payload of around 900 pounds. So it's very similar to that.
Now, there's a reason that Kei trucks are so popular in Japan, and it starts with a progressive tax structure where vehicles in Japan are taxed based on the engine size. So a Kei vehicle is subject to a 3% acquisition tax on average, regardless of what you buy. No, I'm sorry. Most vehicles are subject to a 3% acquisition tax, no matter what you buy. But Kei vehicles are subject to only about 10,800 yen, or about $70 per year. Now, if you contrast that with a vehicle that, let's say, has a 3.5 liter engine,
like a Honda Accord, for example,
that would be 5 times as much.
Yeah. So if I was living in Japan and I had that choice in front of me. And also, the streets are pretty narrow. You've been there, right?
A lot.
I have never been to Japan. I really want to go. But the streets are narrow. The distances are not very long. So I would kind of want to pay less tax and actually buy a small vehicle.
And perhaps more importantly, in Japan, vehicle buyers, truck buyers, car buyers have to have a parking certificate, in essence, proof that they have somewhere to park their vehicles, unless it's a Kei vehicles. So in other words, if you want to go and buy, let's say, a Honda Accord, you have to prove that you have a place to park it, which is problematic because Tokyo is very large and very overcrowded.
So does that mean the government actually comes out and measures your parking space?
They do, yeah. They actually come out. When I was in Japan, I asked our tour guide about it, and she said that's what happens. Somebody from the police comes and measures your parking space, and it has to match the exact size or bigger of the vehicle that you're buying, unless it's a Kei truck or car.
So you're exempt from that, basically?
Yeah.
Okay, that's really a lot of incentive, I would say, to drive a small vehicle. In a country like Japan.
Yeah, it's become this whole thing, and of course people import them if they're 25 years or older. And in places like Colorado, they just passed a law saying that you can actually start to register them here. But remember, at the beginning of this video, I said there's a catch.
There is a catch, okay.
And the catch is a big one, and that is during his press conference, President Trump said that he doesn't want auto manufacturers to import Kei vehicles.
He said they need to be built here.
Yeah, so he wants GM, Ford, Honda, Toyota,
Stellantis, anybody.
to build them here,
Okay.
and then to sell them here. But beyond that, we should talk about, are Kei trucks actually practical? And is there actually something preventing them from being built here? Because, okay, so they're tiny, but we've had tiny cars in America in the past, right? We've had smart cars, which are tiny.
Yeah, we've had like Toyota Scion made an IQ, which was a very compact, really tiny vehicle.
And, Slate is building a pretty tiny truck.
And the new company Tello is building a very tiny truck.
So I'm not sure there's anything actually preventing car and truck manufacturers in America from building K-size vehicles, except for, and this is a big one, the marketplace.
Demand,
yeah. Ford came out with the Maverick. So as you know, trucks come in 4 different sizes right now. There's compact truck, there is mid-size Tacomas, there's full-size F-150s, and then there's heavy-duty trucks. And yet, a very popular small, let's call it compact truck, the Maverick, has been selling how many units a year?
Well, I think they're on track to sell about 160,000 just in the United States, which is actually quite a lot for a kind of a compact vehicle.
Yeah, I would say it's an out of the ballpark smash hit.
Yes, but there's a catch, Roman.
And yet nobody has built one to compete with it.
No, and also there's another catch, is that if you look at the size of the Maverick, yes, it's pretty compact, but it's not that much smaller than a Ranger.
Yes.
Right? It's maybe about 8 to 10 inches shorter.
I think a K truck would be qualified as a tiny truck.
Yes, it's a new classification.
Yeah, it would be tiny, compact, mid-size, full-size, heavy-duty.
Yes.
But the question that I'm asking myself is, if Ford's got this runaway hit, why isn't GM or Toyota or Ram or anybody else actually building a competitor to the Maverick? There might be one coming, but at this point, you'd think there'd be one out there already.
Yeah, because Ford came out with this in 2022 for sale, and they were testing it way in advance of that. So other manufacturers had advance notice that Ford is doing this.
Now, let's talk about our K truck, because we've had a lot of experience driving it. There are some pretty significant issues.
Okay.
Let's start with the basic one, and that is that your feet are the crumple zone.
Yes, and our producer Cole will play another video because Casey and I took this little truck into off-road areas. And dude, when I get behind the steering wheel, my knees are hitting like the blinker, where the blinker is, and I'm turning on the wipers with my knees by accident.
I can't open the window because my
the knees there, you can't even control the window. So it's a very small vehicle, and Americans are getting large. I'm speaking about myself.
Yeah, it's not a vehicle designed for big boys.
Big boys.
It's like us. You're 6'3", I'm 6'2". So that's a problem. And the other problem might be that I don't think anybody in America has gone broke selling big trucks, but they certainly have gone broke selling tiny trucks.
By the way, you said smart car, we said Scion IQ,
Yes.
we said original minis. All those vehicles are gone.
Yes.
The smart car is no longer sold here.
Yeah, city cars.
There's no IQ.
I mean, a K truck and a K car is the ultimate city car.
Yeah.
Right? Americans, it's like one of those things where when you see it, you're like, ooh, wouldn't it be cool to have one? But then when it's actually at the dealership, and you're like, yeah, I'm not sure. I'd rather have, the F-150.
But what about our friend Larry, right? Larry imported several K vehicles into Colorado in the United States. And what about a van? Alex used to own a van.
Yeah, they have vans. They have sports cars. They have trucks in Japan. But I think the key here is that this has started out back after the Second World War. In 1949 was when K vehicles first emerged. So there's this long history of these vehicles being sold and built in Japan. They've gotten very popular.
And they're everywhere.
They're everywhere. You've got also legislative reasons to buy them. None of that exists here in America.
Yes. But there's another catch, Roman.
What's that?
We know this from owning this Honda Acti K truck. You talked about safety a little bit, but also top speed. Top speed on these vehicles, because they have low horsepower, about 50 horsepower when new, maybe a little bit less. I know we talked about turbocharging.
I got
Is there a top speed limit?
Yeah, no. I mean, nothing.
Would you be comfortable going 80 in a K truck?
Yeah, I did a pretty top speed run in our Acti, and it was fine. It did really fine. The bigger issue, Andre, is that for a long time, you weren't able to register these in a lot of states, and people couldn't figure out why states were prohibiting these things from being registered. And it turned out that there was an industry group, and it's suspected that it was financed by the insurance industry. And basically, insurance companies did not want these things on the roads in America for obvious reasons. Because let's say you're in our little Acti and you happen to get hit by an F-250.
I think the F-250 would win.
Exactly. What do you think is going to happen? And how much is an insurance company going to have to pay out, not only to repair the vehicle, but to pay for your lovely widow's life insurance policy on you, because there's not going to be a lot left of you if you get hit by that. And I think not just insurance companies, but I think even myself, I would be hesitant to drive one of these at least
80 miles an hour
here in Colorado, next to F-250s and Ram 2500s and all the various big trucks out there. So
wasn't there another lobby group that was a little bit against this? I'm talking about side-by-side manufacturer organization, because a lot of these vehicles could be used on farms, but there's other vehicles being produced right now. I'm looking at
Expedition, Polaris Expedition, basically.
Polaris,
right?
Can-Am, Kawasaki. All of those.
Yeah, and then of course, also obviously we have different safety standards in America, crash standards, and I'm not sure what the crash standards are in Japan. We could do some digging, but I'm sure they're different than the crash standards here in America, and the physics of it are not good for a vehicle that's this tiny. Just the physics alone.
Yeah. So, and maybe that is the reason why Ford, GM, Stellantis, others are not actually selling these yet, right?
Well, I just don't. Okay, well, let's talk about the Japanese. Let's say you're Mazda, Toyota, or Honda. I just don't see a business case to build a Kei truck in America and then export it to Japan. And I don't see a business case to build a Kei truck in America or car and then sell it in America because of all this legislative and lobbying headwind against it. So as much as I'm a big fan and I believe in the free market, and I would love to be able to go into my local Toyota dealer and buy myself.
What about a Suzuki dealer and buy yourself a Jimny?
I would kill to buy a Jimny, dude. I would kill to buy a Jimny, which is a tiny little Mercedes.
It looks like a little Jeep.
Like a little G-Wagon or a little Jeep, right?
Yes.
And we just profiled one. Cole, maybe you could find that video. We just profiled one at the Tokyo Auto Show, and I fell in love with it, and it was the equivalent of $17,000.
Oh, it's right there. It's red.
Yeah, it was equivalent of $17,000. So that's a K-sized Jimny. Look how cute that is.
Our producer Cole said that he would go into major debt in order to buy a Jimny.
But you could actually buy one of these in Mexico. And
yes,
as long as you have a place in Mexico that you own, you could legally plate it in Mexico and then drive it to America.
If you work in Texas, for example, or
Colorado,
else.
Yeah, you could, and then you could, but you still don't see a lot of them here. Once again, I think the fear of actually putting that cute little car on American roads is a very real thing. So as much as I would love to have access to all of the great little K vehicles that Japan cranks up, because they are not only cute, they're affordable. But it feels like, kind of a fish out of water here in America. That's, I think, the biggest reason that I think American manufacturers probably, or foreign manufacturers, won't be jumping at this opportunity to, fill our highways with little teeny tiny trucks and cars. As much as I would love it. I would love it.
I agree. Maybe it makes sense for giant cities, but once again, how do you regulate it, right? If you live in Manhattan, it might make sense to drive a Jimny, but if you live in Cheyenne, Wyoming, that makes a lot less sense because you have long distances and you just have to travel further.
I mean, in big cities, you could make an argument for having Kei trucks and vans as delivery vehicles.
Yes.
But I think that they've found a way to do that without necessarily going into Japanese car culture.
Yes, we found a way.
And let's face it, guys, if you want a tiny truck, the Slate is coming.
We hope.
And the Tilo hopefully is coming.
We hope.
And so you will have the opportunity to buy a tiny, albeit electric truck, not necessarily a 600, how much is it?
CC,
turbocharged Honda Acti with a dumper.
Dump bed?
Or you could buy one, there's one on Craigslist right now that's for sale for $9,000. Because of that 25-year rule. So if you don't mind buying, one that's a little bit older, you can certainly pick them up. And even here in Colorado, in I think 2 years, you'll be able. I don't know why 2 years. The governor got out this year and made a big deal about how we're going to finally be able to like title them in Colorado.
Yes.
But it's like 2 years from now. I'm like,
Why couldn't we do it this year?
Yeah, I know. Why is it so hard just to say, okay, K vehicles are legal if they're 25 years or older and they meet the federal requirements. So you can get yourself used ones. And, I just don't see this as something that is practical as much as I wish it were. So
Let us know what you think in the comments below, as always.
We'll see you next time. Ciao.